This is Raja Al Khadim, head of LinkedIn MENA Public Sector Talent Solutions. And I welcome you today to another episode of the LinkedIn Executive Speaker Series. My guest today is Dr. Tariq Al Gurg, CEO of Dubai Cares. Welcome, Doctor.
Thank you very much, Rajai.
Thank you for being with us and for joining us on a conversation around education, volunteering, giving back, and also a message of hope, I guess. Dubai Cares is the non-profit organization established by the Mohammed bin Rashid Global Initiative Program. I believe almost 13 years back, started as a fundraising campaign by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed that ultimately evolved into a continuous giving entity and a giving gift to children around the world, underprivileged children that have difficulty accessing education. And Dubai Cares is there with its mission to address that. Today, Dr. Tariq Al Gurg, CEO of Dubai Cares, hopefully you can enlighten us and share with us about this amazing mission. What are the things that you have been doing in the last 13 years and also this journey with its challenges and inspiration? Thank you.
Thank you, Rajai. As you mentioned, our journey started in Ramadan. It was in the month of September of 2007. His Highness got inspired by initiating Dubai Cares because of what was happening in the world. Let's not forget, today we have the SDGs. At that time, it was the MDGs. And on the second goal of the MDG was about education. So when the United Nations met with the international community in the year 2000 in Dakar, Senegal, and they set those 8 goals to be achieved by 2015. Later on in 2005, the United Nations met again with the international community to see the progress of these goals. And unfortunately, goal number 2, which is education, has been announced officially by the United Nations that it will never be achieved by 2015. That is where the turning point happened. His Highness is a strong believer of education. United Nations announcing that it will never be achieved. And that's how we incubated Dubai Cares in 2007. Now, Rajai, it's very important when you tackle education globally, you have to tackle the main roots and causes of the issues. We as an organization, we are solely focused on education. We don't do anything else but education and global education, and only in developing countries. And when it comes to education, if you tackle 1 or 2 parts of education, it's fine. But it's very hard to tackle all the spectrum of education, the entire spectrum. We started doing primary education in the beginning. 2 years later, we went and started doing early childhood education, which is pre-primary. 2 years after that, we started doing lower secondary. And 2 years after that, we started tackling secondary. And that's how we evolved. And then we started tackling youth empowerment. Today, when you talk about youth empowerment, it's very messy. You don't know what's youth empowerment. We only talk about it, but we don't see what's happening. We tackle issues such as providing them with the right skills, upskilling and reskilling them, providing them with vocational skills, entrepreneurial skills. So it's a bit different than what's happening in the world. Some are in schools, some are in community centers. But we also do tertiary education, which you don't find. So for Dubai Cares to be full-fledged is very important because you hardly have any NGO in the world who does full education, and that's how you
spectrum of activities.
Full spectrum of education.
I did see that. I believe so far you have helped around 20 million individuals in underprivileged countries, and you have maybe covered almost 59 countries globally, from Senegal to Vietnam to Iraq and so forth, which is amazing. Dr. Tariq, what are the major programs that you have rolled out and maybe the one that is closest to your heart?
So I cannot tell you what's closest to my heart because all of them are my baby. But having said that, Rajai, when you want to solve the education problem globally, you have to tackle 2 main issues: access to education and quality education. access is all about increasing enrollment rates, decreasing dropout rates, nurturing a healthy environment in schools. Quality education is all about getting better learning outcomes. So for the access to education, and if we take some of the numbers today we have around 264 million children and youth who are out of school. It's a huge number. We have to bring them into the education system, into the schooling system. Yes. How we do that? Number one, we have to build and renovate schools and classrooms. Another, we have to provide water, sanitation, and hygiene in schools. And we do that by building water wells, gender-specific latrines, hand washing facilities, hygiene education. We build the capacity of the ministry on WASH in schools. We also ask the ministry to train the teachers as well. And you might ask me, why is water and sanitation linked?
Absolutely. How is it related to education?
Yeah. And I'll come to this in a bit. We also provide health in schools, and in health, we focus on deworming. Now, if we go back to the water and sanitation, what's happening in schools, children and societies don't know the importance of washing their hands with clean soap. A lot of societies and rural areas, they don't even know what's a soap.
Now everybody knows.
No, not everyone. And in sub-Saharan Africa, yes. 75% of schools in rural areas, they don't even have latrines. Yeah. So when you give that wash element and cleanliness, and you convince the parents that your children will be healthy, and you give them health, and you give them nutrition. And we have another program which is into nutrition. We give school feeding, we give school meals, hot school meals, nutrition meals.
So it's an incentive for people to go to school actually for different reasons.
Absolutely, 100%. These are all incentives to convince the parents, not the child, to bring their children in school.
Wow.
So we're giving free education, free health, free meals, and that's the incentive that will bring them. So that's for access. And quality education, the number is even bigger. We have 418 million children and youth who are in schools, but they're not learning anything. They don't know how to read and write. And for that, we tackle it through teacher training, curriculum development, literacy numeracy, adult literacy numeracy, and early childhood development, of course, which is preschooling as well.
Amazing. We were discussing earlier today before the started the interview that myself, I'm away from Dubai today, and trying to connect on internet and having the decent electricity outlet was a challenge for me, being away from home or from Dubai. And it made me think, if this is my case and I have access to technology, what is the case today of people that don't have? And then what are the huge challenges that they face? And it's amazing that Dubai Cares is actually addressing this. Moving from this one, a lot of people ask around me, and I know people close to me in the community, our members, being professionals, yes, but at the same time, being humans, they want to contribute and give back. And having a sense of purpose. My wife being one of them, she always says, I would like to give back. So how can people actually contribute to the mission of Dubai Cares? Can they volunteer? Can they give back? Can they contribute? If you can tell us to our members and audience how they can be involved.
We're talking about the soft element of volunteering, not about monetary, not about donations, right? We're talking about human giving back.
Well, both
right?
who, in whatever shape and form that can people actually give back, time in kind, financial.
So two folds, basically, financial and non-financial. You said it right, Rajai. So financially, they can donate from 1 dirham to whatever amount they want. Smaller donations will go to the pot of Dubai Cares, so that is for core funding. But some donors, they want it in specific countries. Some donors want it into specific causes, into specific programs. Those numbers should be a bit more bigger. I have one example from the private sector in the UAE. There was one company which came and said, I want to give you 10 million dirhams, but I want you to focus on these 3 countries and do whatever program you want. And I had another one which gave me a similar amount, 10 million dirhams, and said, well, I want you to do a health initiatives and I don't care about the countries. So these, when it comes to restricted funding, the number goes up a bit. But we accept everything from $1 to millions of dollars, basically. Non-financially, it's about volunteering, giving back, your own time, donating your time, because what you do is you take time off from your work. So these are your personal holidays that you're taking and you're investing it into a good cause. So volunteering, we do have different volunteering initiatives. We have Volunteer Emirates in the UAE, where we have non-government and charity schools or non-profit schools that we go and we renovate around 4 to 6 schools a year here in the country, in the UAE, and we get around 100 volunteers from the UAE community to help us fix the whole school together, from murals to paintings to chairs and windows and etc. We have Volunteer Globally, 2 editions a year. We take volunteers from the UAE to start building a fresh new school with the community. We have it in Malawi, we have it in Nepal and Senegal. And if you're interested, Rajai, you're more than welcome, and I'll put you in as a I'll let you bypass the queue, basically.
No.
It's a life-changing experience, Rajai.
It is. I saw some pictures.
I would love for LinkedIn to be there to make a small documentary as well. It will be amazing to show the world how a group of people from different levels of society. You have a receptionist in a 3-star hotel. You have an accountant sitting in a company that is not known. You have a manager. You have a CEO. You have different levels. You have at least 9 or 10 different nationalities who are into that group. They travel and they see something totally different. So these are the kind of initiatives. We have summer camps and other stuff as well.
Very nice. And I saw the pictures on the website. It's very inspiring. It made me think, how can people do that? And I'll be very happy to participate in any way, shape, or form. Even at LinkedIn, we have a program where employees actually volunteer their time, and the company really helps and supports this. My next question is around probably the latest recent events around the pandemic with COVID, and how it changed the realities for people, whether at home, at work, in school. And I know that Dubai Cares did an initiative to address education during this pandemic. Maybe you can share with us how is it that Dubai Care reacted positively to address the challenges of COVID for education?
Look, Rajai, you mentioned earlier, and before we started this interview, we were chatting about. You told me you're in Lebanon, and today you woke up with no electricity, and you found it almost impossible to come online to have this interview that has been scheduled a while back. And imagine this problem in most of the countries in the world. Maybe they have electricity, but they don't have any internet connectivity. They don't have any applications. They don't have any webcast features. These are the majority of the countries in the world. These are almost 75% of developing countries. They don't have that. We have developed nations. We have superpowers as countries who stopped their education system from March. They couldn't because they did not have the infrastructure. This is not about how big you are as a country. This is how well prepared you are as a country. And the UAE was one of those countries who were prepared, one of the first countries to announce school and university closures in the country, because we were ready for it. And that is the fortunate part. And we went from normal schooling to virtual schooling, virtual education. And as you saw, the first 1 or 2 weeks, there were some hurdles. It was a new mix. It was a new normal. But then everything went fine. Our wives, the mothers, they did an excellent job.
Yes.
All the mothers, they were struggling, but towards the end, they blended with the system and with the teachers. And then towards the 3rd and 4th week, it was by default, the teachers and the students, they woke up and everything was done,
Absolutely.
So what was happening at that time? An idea struck me, and I said, so as you know, the UAE, the Dubai government initiated a fund, and that was a COVID-19 response fund. It was primarily focused on health. And when they spoke to me and they said, how you guys can contribute? I said, look, we can't work in the UAE because it's not a developing country, but it is in a state of emergency. I can come in, but I can only come in education. I cannot do health. They said, well, there are a lot of schools, whether it's government or non-government, a lot of schools children who come from low-income families are not able to have education because they don't have a laptop at home.
It's so
And then
true.
it's
I had to buy 2 iPads for my kids.
yeah, for your kids.
We didn't have
Yeah,
any, and then we had
yeah.
one. They had to share. We couldn't share. The classes are at the same time. The application doesn't work, and then that was a struggle. Imagine somebody doesn't have access to this or doesn't have the funds to fund this. I'm sure that was a huge problem.
And this is an issue everywhere in the world, not only in the
Yes,
UAE.
yes,
Not about
yes.
a rich country or not. Again, Rajai, this is about how prepared you are as a country. And it struck me, and I go, we have to play a role in this country. No one is looking into education. Everyone is focused on health. And if a lot of people can afford, a lot of people cannot afford. So we spoke to the Ministry of Education, and we gave them the idea and we said, why don't we run a fundraising campaign, a nationwide fundraising campaign, establish a fund that all the money that will come in, you guys, through your procurement system, buy the laptops or whatever is needed to those children. And it became a success. Not only a success, Rajai, we added another feature that you can donate your device as well. We will fix it ourselves. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. And we had another company, which is Abu Dhabi, I think it's Tawzi'. It's a logistic company in Abu Dhabi, Tawzi'. They came and they said, we're gonna pick up the checks and the cash and everything for free. We want to volunteer our time and invest everything into delivering these laptops. And so it worked out perfectly. Today, the ministry told us that they're going to sustain this fund forever. Every school year, this will be on. Anyone who wants to donate as little as 1,000 dirhams, because on average to the ministry, because they buy in bulk and they have a certain specification, on average it costs around 1,200, 1,300 dirhams for one laptop, an actual laptop, which gives you all the education tools.
Yes.
We're talking about what? We're talking about less than $500 here. We're talking about exactly $300. $300, I think a lot of people can afford donating $300. And every $300 can give one child a laptop. And if someone comes with 10,000,
and if not the dollars, it's a used laptop that they can maybe spare and give back and so forth. Very inspiring. Thank you for the story, Dr. Tariq. At the end of our interview, maybe from your side, you can share some parting advice or learnings or best practices throughout your career, or maybe the last period, to our members in the audience. A lot of people now are in a changing reality and a changing world. What message would you like to leave us with, Dr. Tariq?
Well, maybe not a message, Rajai. Maybe I'll tell you what we did globally for COVID-19 response. And then I'll end by giving you an exclusive news. Maybe you will like it as well. So
that's good. Yes, I'll take that.
For the first part, while the COVID-19 issue was happening globally, there were a lot of meetings globally, UNICEF and UNESCO and UN Global Envoy for Global Education, UN Special Envoy for Global Education. We had a lot of meetings. We sit on the boards of all those platforms that I've mentioned, specifically the UN platforms. And the UNESCO Futures of Education Commission, I sit on the advisory board. And I did mention in March that there has to be a UN-led initiative and a coalition to tackle everything got to do with education disruption whenever large-scale disruptions happen in the world, such as COVID-19. We have to be prepared. And we have to tackle the issues from IT infrastructure, ICTs, internet connectivity, that whole infrastructure, and of course the soft component of having digitized curricula, digitized pedagogy, and see how we can work on this. So 3 weeks later, the UNESCO launched the Global Education COVID-19 response. And we were selected as Dubai Cares, the first philanthropic organization to be there. So we did recommend to the world that this has to be initiated so we can solve these issues. We were thanked by UNESCO, but now more than ever, we have to unite as all the countries. We have to bring all the money in. We have to bring all the technology in so we don't miss out on any education to our children. We are all one human race. We cannot allow a virus stop our salvation. That's the whole point. That's the point of the coalition. And we're also working with UNICEF and others as well on how to tackle these issues. So virtual is a solution, but it has to be in the future mixed between virtual and actual, because the face-to-face interaction is very important as well between the mothers, the children, and the teachers. Don't forget, teachers need also training. So virtual teacher training has to happen as well.
It's a full cycle.
So that is what we have been doing globally, and we're working with all those UN platforms to make sure that they're all aligned, because we fund all of them, but not necessarily all of them work with each other. Because we fund all of them, we can connect them all together. So we are the glue to connect this global coalition all together. And the news that I'll give you, it just struck me, the painting behind you. I don't know if you realize that you have a painting behind you.
It is.
Yeah, so today or tomorrow, actually, we are going to launch a global fundraising campaign, and it's going to be a partnership between Dubai Cares and Atlantis the Palm with the globally renowned artist Sasha Jeffrey. He's going to paint 60 paintings, and hopefully we're going to sell those to raise $30 million globally. UNESCO and UNICEF and the Global Gift Foundation are partners with us, alongside Dubai Tourism and Marketing Commerce, DTCM, and also the UAE Ministry of Culture. This will be a global initiative starting from Dubai, moving towards Abu Dhabi and going global. These paintings are so huge. If you put all the 60 together, those are 2 football pitches. So you're talking about 8 by 14 meters each painting. And each will be sold by $500, and hopefully this is a story that all these funds will go into these platforms that I spoke to you about. To UNICEF, it's going to be through their project of connecting all the schools in the world with internet connectivity. It's UNESCO's the global coalition that I've mentioned. It's Dubai Cares, what we're doing with Expo, and lastly, I wanted to mention as well that Dubai Cares is launching at Expo 2021. December 2021, the world largest education summit. It's called Rewired, and Rewired is all about how can we change education before 2030. So this will be a global open platform.
The right topic at the right time, which is the subject of the hour. Thank you, Dr. Tariq Al Gurg, CEO of Dubai Care, for a very insightful chat. And I personally learned a lot, and I look forward to maybe to participate in your next initiative, whether fundraising or volunteering. And Dubai Cares hopefully will continue to care and contribute to the global education for underprivileged kids. Thank you so much, and see you soon.
Thank you. It's called Humanity Inspired, the fundraising campaign.
Humanity Inspired. Thank you so much, and best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.